try to control you. Look into my eyes and I'll own you. With them moves like Jagger, I've got them moves like Jagger, I've got them moves.
What's going on YouTube? MikeDecIsHere bringing you a narrated black and white OU Wi-Fi battle against PinyataBob. I'll throw his channel in the description. So I hope you guys enjoy and let's get started. So let's start off with DecIsHere and I start off with Slowbro. I'm expecting some sort of lead set just because of its name, which is kind of silly. But I stay in and go for a Scald, expecting a taunt as he goes for a T-Bolt. And that does a ton, so I could tell immediately that that thing is specs based on that damage. I go for a Scald, kind of expecting him to just stay in and try to set up a hazard. But now he switches out expecting my switch, and I go into Sizer. I guess he was expecting my my Gliscor switch. But I wanted to see if this thing has HP Fire or Will-O-Wisp. So I go back at the Slowbro to eat whatever he wants to do as he goes for the Will-O-Wisp. And I guess that's good. Will-O-Wisp is better than Toxic, and I don't want Sizer eating it. But right now, I really have nothing for this Rotom. I'm going to have to fodder something out in order to take this thing out. So I go out to Gliscor because I want to get Toxic Orb up, and I want to see if I can predict his moves a little bit. So now I go out to Gangsta to eat a Hydro Pump because that's really the best thing I have for it. And I just go for a Drain Punch. I guess he was expecting a bulk upset, but that Drain Punch does like nothing. And he gets a crit, which kind of insult to injury. So I know this is definitely bulky Rotom, and that's going to really hurt me for a bit. He goes for a Will-O-Wisp. At this point, I know Gangsta is basically useless, so I'm just going to go for a Dance, expecting him to switch into Dragonite so I can fire off an Ice Punch at it and kill it and break its multi-scale. But he ends up going just for the T-Bolt to finish me off. So, yeah, I mean, Gangsta was pretty much useless anyway. So now I got to switch something in to threaten this thing. So I go to Nightmare, who I know can't one-hit KO from that point, but I have to just threaten it with something. So I'm going to set up a sub just to scout what he wants to do as he switches out to Dragonite. At this point, I don't know what this Dragonite wants to do, but I wanted to sub and see what's up. And he goes for a Dragon Tail. So I'm thinking, great, this is one of those power sub roost sets, and that's going to really screw me over. So I'm just going to sub. I'm expecting a switch here because a lot of people expect sub disable, so they switch into a counter. So I'm just going to go for another sub, but it looks like he's just staying in. So at this point in time, I'm just going to throw up a disable and just get rid of Dragon Tail, and just because it doesn't seem like there's anything else he could do to me. So I throw up the disable. He ends up staying in using Dragon Tail. So I'm just going to now throw up another sub and see what he wants to do because I'm pretty sure he's going to switch. He ends up going out to Sizer. And I'm just throwing out my sub because this is the best way to scout. And now I can see what kind of set it is. If it's choice, if it's especially bulky. So I'm just going to go with the Focus Blast. Luckily it hits. And this does a ton of damage, so it's definitely not especially bulky. So it could be Life Orb, it could be anything. He goes Pursuit. Now, I'm expecting a switch because Disable, once again, is extremely obvious. So I set up another sub, but he stays in. So that was really an interesting play because I don't know why he would stay in. But at this point in time, I'm just going to go for Disable because I'm about 90% sure this thing is banded because most of them are banded, or if they're not banded, they're especially bulky. So his Pursuit's disabled. I can now set up another sub. Oh, but I think I go for the Shadow Ball, thinking that I can just break multi-scale and then switch. And he ends up bringing in Rotom, which is great because now I can get this Rotom out of the way, and that takes a huge threat out for my team because this Rotom was absolutely so threatening. But now Gengar's kind of useless. The rest of his team just kind of roll over it. So I'm going to leave it as fodder and just scout what his Sizer wants to do. If he's predicting a switch, Focus Blast has a chance to kill it. If he Bullet Punched, I can bring in a counter. So he ends up Bullet Punching, and I bring out Gliscor. I figured EQ was obvious, so I would go straight for the Ice Fang, and he does in fact use the Ice Fang, which is a great, because he brings in his own Gliscor. He ends up going for a Fling. I guess it's a Fling Acrobat set, which at this point it's not going to do anything. I just go for another Ice Fang to finish it off. Honestly, Acrobat would have done more. I don't know why he didn't do that. Ice Beam is now really obvious, so I'm going to switch out to Sizer to take that predicted hit, as he does in fact go for the Ice Beam. I don't want to start setting up too early. It's too soon, so I'm going to go for a Bullet Punch just to kind of scout what he wants to do. And he brings out Dragonite, which is nice because now I can break its multi-scale again. At this point in time, I don't want him setting up any roosts. I don't want him doing anything that would make me... Oh, I switch out. That was silly. I switch out to a Iconoscore because I'm predicting a roost, and I know I can just Ice Fang this thing in the face, but he ends up Dragon Tailing and bring me right back out to Sizer. So I'm just going to go for a Bullet Punch, predicting a Dragon Tail again, as he simply just goes for a Dragon Tail and swings me out. I get a crit, but really in the long run, that didn't matter too much. You'll see why later. So I bring out Slowbro, and now I'm predicting a Roost, because Slowbro really can't do anything to him, except try to go for a burn. So I'm going to switch out back to Iconoscore to go for an Ice Fang, and he does in fact go for the Roost. And so his Dragonite's back at full, which is kind of annoying, means multi-scale's back to full. But I have Gliscor, and this Knight can't really touch him, so I know he's going to switch out. But honestly, I just want to go for the Ice Fang, because I don't want to overpredict and EQ something that I don't like. So in comes Donphan. I can't do anything. I don't want to get hit with an Ice Shard, but I know Slowbro can take whatever this thing wants to dish out. So I switch to him, and he goes for a Stealth Rock, which I guess late game rocks isn't terrible, but it's not going to do much right now. He goes for an EQ, and Slowbro is a beast. I mean, look at that. That did like nothing. I go for a Scald, and this is clearly a losing battle, so he's just going to switch out. I believe maybe he stays in. I don't even know. So he does stay in. He goes for another Earthquake, which is really confusing. I forgot I took this thing out. I thought I took it out later. So I go for a Scald to finish off the Donphan. I guess he figured it was useless. Maybe it didn't have Ice Shard, which is kind of weird. I figured allowed him to do. But now this is pretty much useless. So I figured Thunderbolt's obvious, so I stayed in, scouting what he wants to do, because worst comes to worst, Slowbro is useless, and I can just figure out what he wants to do from that. He ends up going for Ice Beam, which is great, because Slowbro gets off a free Scald, and I live with 3 HP, which is great, because now I can switch it out, and it gets Regenerator back. So it gets its health back. I can live it and still make it useful. So I go back out to Sizer to take the Ice Beam. And at this point, it's just down to Dragonite and Sizer. So I'm just going to Roost off to get off the damage out. And I believe I'm just going to go for a Bullet Punch now to break the multi-scale, because that's pretty much the best move I have right now. This Dragonite's bulky, so it's slow. So which means the Gliscor can outspeed. I'm hoping that Ice Fang can at least do a solid chunk, if not one-hit KO for this thing, because 4-time weak to Ice, it's going to do a ton. And unfortunately, it doesn't do as much as I want, which kind of sucks. So I just, he ends up Dragon Tailing, I bring out Sizer, and now I'm just expecting I'm expecting him to Roost. So I'm going to set up a Swords Dance, just because I want to bait the Dragon Tail, so I can bring out either any one of my other guys. I can either use, if he brings out Slowbro, I can use Scald to try to get a burn in order to break multi-scale, or I can use Ice Fang on Gliscor or Stone Edge on Terrakion and kill this thing. But he ends up now just going for EQ. I guess he realizes that Dragonite really can't do anything to the rest of his team. So I'm just going to keep Bullet Punching until this thing is dead. He does in fact go for the Dragon Tail, but he ends up missing. In the long run, it really didn't matter from that HP. Anything that brought in could immediately threaten it. So I'm going to use Bullet Punch to take out the Sizer. And at this point in time, he's left with 2 guys. He's left with his Sizer, and he's left with his Deoxys, both of which are really not going to be able to do too much to the rest of my guys. I Bullet Punch, and it doesn't do as much as I want. He Bullet Punch, and I see that damage go down. I'm like, oh my god, I'm screwed. But it ends up being a crit, so I'm like, okay, I can Roost off the damage. I'll be good to go. Make sure I can live another hit. And it does, I do in fact live. So now nothing funny is going to happen. I'm going to Bullet Punch the next turn. He ends up being faster, but it's really no big deal. So I'm just going to Bullet Punch, just going to take out the Sizer, and all that's left now is me and the Deoxys E, which is going to die to a Bullet Punch. So that's going to be the end of the battle. So good game, PinyataBob. Check out TPX, check out TeamUber. If you guys enjoyed, please rate, comment, subscribe, and hopefully I'll bring another one to you guys soon, okay? Peace out, guys. MikeDecIsHere.